Hey there, today we're going to be talking about RV maintenance tips and more. Thanks for being with me. I'm the RV Dummy, and today I've got a special guest. His name is Mark Weiner. He's in LA, California, and he's a friend of mine who we actually met on this channel, and we've been exchanging ideas back and forth for at least the past couple of years. He's very knowledgeable. He has a Class B RV, and we are going to have a great conversation. Let's go ahead and welcome Mark right now. Hey there, Mark. Welcome. Thanks so much for being with me today. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this with me. This is going to be fantastic.
Glad to be with you.
Yeah, so you are, just to let people know, you are a fellow Class B RV owner. We met kind of on this channel because you've been following me for a long time, and we've got so many things in common. And I've got the Pleasure Way XLTS, and tell everybody what your rig is.
My rig is a 2012 Road Trek Adventurous.
And you love it?
I do, most of the time.
When it's working well.
Yes. We've all had issues with our rigs. And I've had it 5 years, and we've gone 41,000 miles across the United States twice. And it's been great, but we've also had some spectacular unscheduled stops.
You shared a lot of those like unscheduled stops with me, and yeah, but the point is you've taken care of them, you've gotten them fixed, and you're back on the road, and things are great. And it's a really good segue, Mark. It's a good, because I think what we're going to be doing today is talking to a lot of people that watch this channel, and even probably new people that haven't watched it before. It's going to have to do with an RV that you can actually drive. So I think mostly like a Class A, Class B, Class C. This video is probably not going to pertain so much to people that are towing something, right? Because we're going to be sharing with people what they can do, how to manage the driving part of the RV vehicle, what you need to do to keep that thing on the road safe, and without any, hopefully with minimum amount of unexpected problems.
That's correct, right.
And I know you've told me this before, Mark, because I think this plays into it a lot. Or you're retired now, but you had a position at a university where you were like in charge of systems or something. Tell us what, because
facilities maintenance.
Okay.
Facilities maintenance, and so I had to forecast when things went wrong, and I had a big budget to deal with that.
Right. So
I don't have a big budget to deal with everything that's going on with the RV, though.
See, that's the thing. See, this is when things happen with the RV, it's our money. There's no university paying for this thing. So when things break down, it's our money. So we're going to be sharing with people today a lot of things you can do in your RV, and we're going to be concentrating on the chassis part, the driving part, not so much the coach part. But I'll tell you, Mark, if this goes really well, you'll come back and we could do one about the coach as well, because I think that's super important also.
It's all important. Otherwise, you're going to have a failure on the road, and it's going to be just very dramatic.
Exactly. Let's get started, and let's share with people as many things as we know to help them prevent problems, and actually not only prevent problems, but make it fun and pleasurable to be driving around in these motorhomes and not have to worry about, well, if this happens, I'm going to be in trouble. So let's get started. I think you prepared like a nice little outline. We're going to probably stick to the outline as much as possible, but if we go off book and we talk about something that's not even on, that's anything goes, because the point of today's show is to help our viewers be better with their RVs. So first is preparation, and I know you made a point here to say like service is the name of the game. Talk about that.
Well, you need to make sure that you've got your oil changed on a regular basis, and you get your generator serviced on a regular basis, and you keep up on your tires. And the tires are really important. One of the things that I have, and I know you have as well, is the tire pressure monitoring system, which will tell you what the tire pressure is in all of the tires, whether you have 4 or 6. And that is key. So you just have to make sure that all of these systems are running, your oil is up, all the fluids are up, and you're not deficient in any one of those things.
Well, you're not one to wait until something is overdue to get it done. In fact, I would say I would put you as way more on the proactive scale. You get things done and do things generally before they're even needed or necessary. So tell us a little about your schedule. Like, okay, your oil changes, your filter. What kind of schedule do you go there?
Okay, so I either drive 10,000, and now I have a diesel. So
that's right. Good point. Very good point.
I can go 10,000 miles or 1 year. But I don't ever deviate beyond a year. I always get it done in 1 year, no matter how, even if I drive 3,000 miles, Dave, I'm just getting it done. And this is where the fallacy comes in, is because it's not just the mileage, it's the time. And that is critical. A lot of people overlook that. The other thing is that the time on tires. Tires should be really, if you want to be safe, tires should be changed every 5 years, regardless of what they look like, because they do get brittle, and they can crack, and they can fail. And if you're driving a 10-foot vehicle, let me tell you, if you have a tire failure, you could roll the vehicle, you could injure yourself, you could crash your vehicle. It's just not worth it.
You said a 10-foot vehicle. Did you mean a 20-foot plus vehicle?
No, 10 feet, almost 10 feet high.
Oh, 10 feet high. I'm sorry, 10 feet high. I was thinking about length. Okay,
it's almost 10 feet high. So when you're driving a vehicle like that, it's not like an ordinary car where you're a lot lower to the ground. So if you lose let's think of this. So you lose your balance and you're driving a vehicle that's top heavy, it's more likely you're going to tip over. That's not good, right?
That's I don't think anybody would think that's good. Now, I remember, Mark, when I first got my current rig. Now, I bought it used. For those of you that don't know, it's a 2006. It's a 2006 chassis, Ford E350, but it's a 2007 build of a Pleasureway XLTS. So it just gives you an idea about how, what kind of time frame. But the guy that I bought it from was it's typical older guy, put very few miles on it. I think when I bought it from him, it had 10,000 miles on it, and everything was this guy was on top of everything. It was just in pristine shape. But Mark, you remember this, so last year, Yoko and I were on a road trip, and we blew out a couple valve stems, and the tires themselves looked, they didn't have all that many miles on them. Now, they had years on them, but they didn't have that many miles on them. And after the second valve stem, which was, by the way, was kind of rotted out, rubbery rotted out, I called you. I made it a point to call you, and I said, Mark, I've got a question. I've only got the blank 1,000 miles on the rig, which is not that many. I said, but it's over, it's over 6, 7, 8 years old. The tires are over 6, 7 years old. Should I get new tires? And without even thinking, you just said yes. I remember that.
I did because it's not worth trying to squeeze the last 2,000 or 3,000 miles out of a tire, especially when you're like, for me, I drive across country every year. I don't take the rig across country every year, but I'm driving a car or my motorhome, and the problem with having a blowout on the road is just not worth taking the risk.
Yeah. Now, the thing is, though, if anybody looked at the tires that I just replaced last year from your recommendation, and by the way, it was probably the best move I've ever made, because we're so happy with the new tires. But if anybody would have looked at my old tires, or my current tires at the time, they would have said, "Oh no, you've got all this tread left. They look fine. They're great." But I wasn't comfortable with them because we had 2 blowouts of valve stems. And somebody could argue, well, all you need to do is replace the valve stems and you'd be totally fine because the rubber was good. But no, you're right. The rubber was not necessarily good because the tires were in the 6 to 7 year old range. And even though there was no visible wear, somebody could argue that, but the rubber doesn't last that long, and you need to replace them. And, it's not necessarily a cheap thing to do, even though I don't have dualies. We have just 4 tires total, but right. It was not inexpensive. But now, Mark, when I go out on the road and drive my rig, I feel extremely confident in these new tires. There's nothing. I always tell people, whether it's a car or an RV, there's nothing like the feel of driving on brand new tires. It just feels so great. monthly checkpoints that you can do yourself, things that you can do yourself, what falls into that category?
Well, checking the oil, making sure that, your, like I said, like your tire pressure is always up. Um, look around the rig to see if there's anything leaking. If you find anything leaking, you got a problem. So you should take it into the shop. Now, I don't work on my own rig
Right.
because I just don't. I know what my limitations are. So I'll schedule an appointment and I'll bring it in. Fortunately, I haven't had too many problems with that. My problems have been maybe on the road. And just let me say this, it's either broken, you just fix it, or it's about to break. That's how it is with an RV. So people don't understand how complicated these machines are.
It's a really good point. And what you said totally struck a chord when you said, if you see something leaking, then something's wrong, something's broken. And I remember, and I'm sure I told you this story, but it was a year and a half ago, Yoko and I pulled into we were traveling through southern Utah. We pulled into a hotel. And of course, as soon as we pulled in, I saw what appeared to be radiator fluid underneath it was dripping down. And I said, oh my God, we got an issue. And so I ended up having to call a mobile RV tech no, it was not an RV tech. He was actually a mobile mechanic because it was a chassis part. He ordered the part just from what I told him over the phone, ordered the hose, which is like an octopus hose. It's got things coming all off. And he was able to come out and fix it right on the spot in the parking lot there. So you're right. Now, if we would have said, oh, it's just a little bit leakage, let's just try to get home. And it would have been about a 4-hour drive home. We would have been stranded. There's no question at all. We would have been stranded, done. So you're correct.
And it really depends on what's leaking. If your air conditioning is going and you see condensation coming down from the air conditioning and it's water, that's a different story. Or if you just put windshield wiper fluid in your reservoir and it's leaking a little bit, that's a different story too.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, that goes without saying. I mean, generally, if it's a warm day, a hot day, and you stop and you see some condensation from the air conditioner coming, that's totally normal. But Mark, getting back to the tire pressure monitoring system, and again, this video is about you, I think, because I want to thank you because when I got my rig, so I think it's been like just roughly 4 years ago, something like that. And we were driving, it's a 2006, 2007. So it didn't have a built-in tire pressure monitoring system back in those days. So, we drove it cross country. We were taking it on trips all over the West. And you said, Dave, you really need to get a tire pressure monitor system. And so my thought process was, yeah, it would be nice to have, but, people did without them for all these decades and it's not that crucial. But having said that, you went ahead and sent me one as a really nice gift, and I'm indebted to you forever. I appreciate that. That was really kind of you, very kind. But that saved me in reference to the time I was talking to you about when the valve stems broke. We could hear the audible alert, and we could see the pressure going down on the monitor in front of us. Now, had we not had that, there is no question we would have had a major blowout on the highway and it would not have been pretty. So I am a fan. I say, if any of you are watching this or listening and you do not have tire pressure monitoring system, get one immediately. They are not expensive, and the amount you'll pay would be like just incredible insurance to have anything serious happen on the road. I think many of you or most of you probably have, but the few strays that don't yet have it, get one today.
Yeah, really, it's about roughly $500 to get one. And when I put the first set of tires on my RV, the tire shop recommended it. They called it to my attention, and I immediately said, "Yeah, that's a good idea." Because when you're spending $2,000 for tires, what's another $500?
Oh, you're preaching to the choir, my man. Totally, and I think you could. Probably not that you want to cheap out on this, but you could probably even get it a little bit less than the 500. But yes, $500 a price point where you should be ready to spend that kind of money, and it's super important. And just go on Amazon, and they got a lot of different types there. Mark, what was the kind you sent? What was the brand? I can't remember the brand you sent me.
Truck System Technologies, but there's so many other brands out there. I'm not saying that's the only brand out there, but they do specialize in that. I think that's the only thing they do, I believe.
Well, the thing I liked about them is when you sent this to me, and I had a little bit of not trouble, but I didn't understand exactly how to install them. I got them on the phone. Their help desk was incredible. They were incredibly kind, and they knew exactly what they were talking about. And I got it done immediately. So what's it, Truck System Technology? I would give them a 2 thumbs up for sure.
You know, telephone support is really important. You know, I have another component in my rig. It's a NovaCool refrigerator. The NovaCool people will answer the phone, answer all my questions. I love that telephone support.
Right. So that's a good point. So if you're going to be buying something, it's always good to look into the company and see what kind of support they have, because inevitably something's going to go wrong, or you're going to have a question about a setup or something. So if they have good telephone support, it's a really good tip. Mark, what about you said something about any loose items that require tightening, or and even let's get into weight distribution in the van, even though this is not really a chassis type thing. It kind of is, because everything's connected.
Right. Well, weight distribution is really important. On your vehicle, you should see a sticker on the door jamb that tells you what the occupant carrying and load capacity is of the vehicle. In my case, the occupant carrying capacity is 2691. But then you've got to start deducting for the amount of water you're carrying, the passengers, the gear, whatever else you're going to put on the van. So you're going to need to subtract all, plus the weight of the fuel. So as soon as you start subtracting all that, you should have some kind of headroom. In my case, I think I have about 1,200 pounds extra left over. But you don't want to overweight the van. That's really important on any vehicle.
Right. So you mentioned something to me the other day, and I have not yet done this, and I'm a little bit embarrassed, but I have never taken my rig and had it weighed. I've not done that. And so if I wanted to do that tomorrow, how would you recommend that? Where do I take it? What do I do? What do I tell them?
Okay. Just look in the yellow pages and find a cat scale.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Wait a minute. Back up a second. Yellow pages. What does anybody?
All right. Sorry, Dave. Sorry. Wait. You know what? You and I are old school, so okay. Right. Look online and look up a cat scale location, cat scales, and it should be less than $10 to take your rig over, and you drive the vehicle right on the scales. They'll weigh it. They'll give you a report, and that's important because you'll know what the weight is of your van, and that you should know.
So I think I've got I think you might have mentioned to me one time that Pilot truck stops, all Pilot truck stops do that, and I've got one literally 10 minutes from my house here. I think tomorrow I might just get in my rig, drive over to the Pilot. Do you have to like just go to the certain area where the scale is and say, "Excuse me, I'd like to get weighed"? I mean,
if they have a scale there,
I'm pretty sure they do. I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure the Pilot has a scale right there.
All right.
Excellent, Mark. Oh, by the way, I want to backtrack on one thing. Something I was just thinking of. I want to just go back to oil changes for 1 second. I want to clarify something, because I want to make sure everybody knows the reason you're doing it every 10,000 miles or 1 year is because you have a diesel, and diesels are different. And so I've got a gasoline powered engine, and I change my oil in the gasoline powered engine every 3,000 miles. Now, some people might say you don't need to do it that often, but my mechanic recommends 3,000 miles. It's so inexpensive, and it's like insurance. And I think the more often you change the oil and the filter, the better it is for the engine. So I do it every 3,000 miles, whether it needs it or not.
Right. Well, you could, most cars nowadays, modern cars, and I would consider your Econoline, your Ford, to be in that range, Dave, can go 5,000 miles at least, especially if you're using synthetic oil. But in the case of the diesel, there's the oil filter, the water separator. There's so all these extra filters on the van, and it's very expensive. So, and when I say expensive, it's like between $600 to $800 per oil change. That's a lot of money. So I only want to do it once a year.
Okay, so now I don't feel that bad, even if I get mine changed every 3,000. And again,
No,
some people might say that's too often, but I'm paying like I'm roughly $100 for an oil change, lube and filter. So it's not really that bad.
And by the way, that's my independent mechanic, because if I brought it to Mercedes, they would charge me $1,500 for an oil change.
I want to say that's highway robbery, but you know, I don't know. Mercedes might have their reasons for charging that much. It sounds like a lot of money for an oil change.
It is.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Mark, let's get into one of my favorite topics, actually, because I'm a tech geek kind of, mobile electronics. We already talked about the tire pressure monitoring system. That'll fit in that category. What do you think about backup cameras? I mean, basically all vehicles have them now, but again, they're different on RV. They're really necessary on RVs because a lot of times there's a total blind spot. Like I know on your rig, you don't even have a window in the back. I do, but I still have I put a backup camera in a very large screen because again, mine is a 2006 chassis and they weren't standard back then. They didn't have them. So, but I made it a point to put a really, really nice audio system, aftermarket audio system with a screen that's actually larger than a double din and actually comes out of the dash a little bit. So it's like that big. It's a big screen. So when I'm backing up, baby, I can see anything. I feel very, very confident with that.
That was the first thing I did in my van. I actually changed. It had a camera system, and I do. By the way, I do have rear windows on my van. Isn't it? I do. But
for some reason, I thought you had like the solid back for some reason. I don't know.
I don't. I don't.
Okay.
And I do have a rear view mirror, and you can kind of see partly out the window, but not really all that much. And the camera was just very substandard on the original equipment. So I changed it out to a high definition camera. And I also have a camera in the front of the van so I can see the very front end, beyond the front end as well.
Oh, now did you put that in the front yourself or did that come?
I had it all professionally done.
See, I don't have one in the front, and that's not a bad idea. Not a bad idea at all. But I don't.
In case you're getting close to something, you can see exactly how far away you are.
That's beautiful.
So I did that. The other thing I did was I put on rear proximity sensors so that if I'm backing up to something or if somebody is walking behind the van, I'll know because there's an audio signal that'll tell me.
Okay, that's something I don't have. Now, I just want to bring this up to my viewers. If you have any questions about any of the things we're talking about, such as, for example, just the rear proximity sensors. Mark, I'm going to ask you if you can help me monitor any kind of questions or comments once this video is up. And if somebody has a question that you feel comfortable answering, just jump in and answer it because somebody might be asking a question about those rear proximity sensors, which I don't really know much about. I don't have them on my rig. But if anybody asks any questions about anything, let's try to help them out with any question they might have.
Sure. I'll just tell you right off the bat that the rear proximity sensors were a product by Rydeen Electronics, which is out there. They do cameras and they do proximity sensors. Now, one of the things I do have to tell you, which is kind of unfortunate, after I put the rear proximity sensors on my van and then I put a bike rack on the back, I had to disable the rear proximity sensors because they would automatically go off and sound an alarm. So right now they're not actually functioning because I had to disable them. But if I took the bike rack off, they would be working.
Okay, so that's a really good point. So if anybody is thinking about getting those aftermarket, and if you've got any kind of rack system or bike or anything like that, you need to be very careful about the placement. So that's thanks for bringing that up, Morgan. That's a good point. You have something here about satellite radio. What did you want to say about that?
I love my satellite radio because we've taken the van across country twice, and we go to remote locations and. It's Sirius XM, and Sirius XM is everywhere. I mean, there's I haven't found any place that doesn't have Sirius XM. Even Death Valley, Dave, Sirius XM is working.
Well, as long as you have a view of the sky, then that's it works
Right.
on a satellite, like basically anywhere in the world, depending on where Sirius XM like authorizes it. But yeah, anywhere in North America for sure. As long as you have a view of the sky with your satellite antenna, your
Yeah,
Sirius XM
exactly.
antenna,
That's why. Right.
it'll grab it for sure. So
Right.
that's great. Now, I don't have Sirius X. First of all, let me back up. I love Sirius XM. We've got it in our Subaru, um, but I don't have it like built into my rig, my RV. But I use it through my system through Bluetooth from my iPhone, which
Okay.
can grab the Sirius XM and then just play it through the system. And it sounds every bit as good. The only disadvantage to that, Mark, as you probably know, is if I'm in an area that does not have cell service. Like you'd be able to pick it up on the satellite. I wouldn't be able to pick it up if there's no cell service because
Right.
I'm relying on the cell towers. You're not, which is a pretty cool thing. So you can basically get music or news or anywhere you want on the planet. Well, on the planet, at least North America, at least North America.
Right.
Now, something I'll add, and I know I've discussed this with you before, Mark. I've taken the satellite thing a step further because I don't want to be stranded in an area. If we have a breakdown or any kind of emergency, even if it's a medical emergency or something, and we're not in a cell area. So it could be we're out on a hike. It could be we're out on the road in the RV, just in a bad cell area or a no cell area. And I just want to have this. I use it as insurance. Luckily, I've never had to use it in the way I would need it for the insurance. But so I carry a satellite phone with me. It's not that expensive at all. You know, people might say it's expensive, but it costs me total for unlimited talk if I want to. It might not be unlimited, but it rolls over, so it becomes kind of unlimited. I think it only cost me like it might be $99 a month total, and they throw the phone in for free. So I just feel it's not for everybody, but I just feel like I don't want to be that person that breaks down in a no cell zone and I'm screwed and I have to rely on a trucker to come by and put something out on a CB radio or somebody once they get into town. That's out of my control. I don't want that. I like to be in control of my emergencies. God forbid if they were to ever happen. I want to be in total control. That's why I carry the sat phone with me.
You know, I would love to have a satellite phone, but it's another $1,200 a year, which is a cost and expense. But you're right, it's like insurance. And the other thing is that I've got satellite navigation in addition to the Sirius XM radio. So I've got that is another thing. So I love satellite solutions. I'm with you. I definitely agree. That's good. If I just had another $1,200 to throw at that, if I were driving, Dave, if I were driving across country, and we're doing about 8,000 miles a year. If I was doing like 20,000 miles a year in the van, I would definitely have a satellite phone. Okay.
Well, so I will admit this, that I kind of have it for dual purpose, Mark, and I've told you about this too. So I'm here in Utah, and my wife and I do a lot of hiking and things like that in the back country where there's, we might go in the back country in the winter on a cross country ski trek where there's just no cell service. I don't want to be that person that, God forbid, has a medical emergency or something, and we're stuck out in the middle of nowhere without cell service. So I use it for that as well. So I kind of can justify, well, okay, if I ever have any kind of emergency in any kind of no cell area, whether it's in my RV, whether it's in the backcountry hiking or anything, I'm going to be prepared. And so it's definitely a price to pay. $1,200 a year is not inexpensive, but I'm prepared to pay it. I'm willing to pay it just because it gives me that. It just gives me that peace of mind. That's all it is. And I'll tell you something else, Mark. Hopefully, I'll never have to use it. I think I used it last winter when we were trekking on a cross-country ski trip, and I called my son just to say hello. So at least I got some use out of it. I just want to test it out.
I realize that. Everybody chooses their battles, and not everybody has long-term care insurance. I decided to purchase that. So, I mean, yeah, you just have to choose what you want to do. But I agree.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely no right, no wrong. We're just throwing a lot of things out there. Like, look, I couldn't say somebody is wrong not to have the rear. What do you call it? The rear proximity sensors. I mean, if you don't have that, you don't want. You're not wrong. I would say a backup camera is really really super important. But again, it's we're throwing a lot of things out there because people can pick and choose and do what they feel is most appropriate for them. So let's get into emergency roadside services. I know you and I have also had some conversations about this recently because you had a little situation pretty recently, I know.
I did. I broke down in the Mojave Desert. The turbocharger failed, and it was a little scary. I'll tell you, it was. We started losing power. We were kind of limping along, but we made it to Barstow, California, and I called the auto club, and I wanted to be towed. They said, "Well, we've changed our policy." I said, "What do you mean you changed your policy?" "Well, we published an article in Westways magazine." I said, "Really?" And not everybody reads all these little articles that you could have put something in my bill. You could have sent me an email. I get emails from the auto club all the time. So yeah, they only pay for a $500 breakdown. And the towing company that wanted to take me 5 miles was charging the auto club $585. So they wanted to make me pay the additional supplement of 85. I said, "What do I have an RV policy for?" So anyway, I was a little upset. Plus, this is the worst part of all, Dave, is that they were willing to pick either myself or my wife up and take us along to the repair shop. The other person had a branded. I don't Here's the thing. I don't consider that to be emergency roadside service. It's not, I mean, you're laughing, but no, it's true. And you know what? So I actually called, and I now with another company. Now, again, listen, nobody wants to call emergency roadside service of any kind, right? Nobody wants a breakdown. Like yourself, like your satellite phone, this is insurance. And you hope you never have to make the call. But I did end up calling, and I made a connection with CoachNet, which is a specialty company, a company that's been around a little more than 30 years, and actually 1987, started in 87. So I don't know how many years that is, but that is a long time. And they specialize in RV emergency roadside service. And they told me they would never let their clients sit by the side of the road. They would send a chaser car. And I felt a little more comfortable about that situation, because I didn't want to be sitting by the side of the road. This is crazy.
In the Mojave Desert, which was probably like 115 degrees, I'm guessing.
Yeah. This is not a good situation.
No,
right?
no, Mark. So you've said you didn't mention by name, but let's mention by name because I'm okay. We really want to get this out there. You're referring to AAA AAA roadside RV service, right?
AAA of Southern California.
Yep.
I had the premier RV service. I think that's the highest service you can get, Dave. You can't get any higher than that. They have all these levels, right? And that is premier is the highest level with the RV added on. So I was very disappointed, to say the least.
I think as a premier member, they should have at least put one of you in the back of the tow truck and brought you along too. But
they were willing to take one of us.
That's crazy. I think they should have put both. As a premier member, they should have put both of you in there. But right. Mark, so I luckily, knock on wood, I haven't had to be towed in my rig, but we did have a problem about a year ago. We're somewhere in southern Utah, I believe. I can't remember exactly where it was. It was around Flaming Gorge. It's a beautiful place, by the way. If you haven't been there, or if anybody has not been there, it's a beautiful place, Flaming Gorge, Utah. So I hate to admit this, but I'll be very transparent because I'm the RV dummy. We all make mistakes, and the RV dummy makes a lot of mistakes, and it's okay because that's how we learn. But Yoko and I were at a campground outside of Flaming Gorge about a year ago, and we're dog sitting. So we had Oliver, our neighbor's dog with us as well. Everything, we're having a great time. And somehow, I don't even know how it happened. I'll take blame. We locked ourselves out of the RV at the campground. So it's Yoko and me and Oliver sitting out on a picnic bench with our RV locked right in front of us. I went around to see if anybody at the RV place could help us, and everybody was very sympathetic, but nobody had the right tools to do it. So I called AAA. So AAA said they were going to send a guy out, but they said now Flaming Gorge is kind of in the middle of nowhere. So they said, we're going to send the guy out. He's coming from, I can't remember what town it was, but it was a town that was like basically an hour and a half to 2 hours away. So what happened was this guy got in his truck, drove just under 2 hours, spent about 10 minutes finagling and unlocking our van, and then got back in his truck and drove back home 2 hours. And so that was a really good experience we had. And I felt so bad for the guy, even though I shouldn't feel bad because he was getting paid. So, but I said, look, I want to give you something. Can you accept a tip? And he said, well, you don't have to, but I wouldn't turn it down if you gave me, but you don't have to. So I like handed him a 20 or something like that. I said, I know you're getting paid, but you helped us out so much. I really appreciate what you did. I probably should have given him 50. I don't know, but that was a very, very good experience with AAA. I will admit.
Well, I will say I had a good experience in 2020 on my way east to Michigan. We broke down actually in St. George, Utah, and I was 6 miles from the Mercedes-Benz dealership, and they came over. They put my vehicle on a flatbed tow, and they took it right away, and that was no problem. So that was a good experience. They're not all bad experiences, but this last experience was really stunning.
It sounded like that was not a good experience for you at all, Mark. Yeah,
no. And it prompted me to change services.
Yeah. Well, yes, and AAA lost a lifetime customer because of that service. So that's a shame. Let's talk about understanding your battery system now. What about that? What do you have to say? What can people do to understand batteries and prevent things from happening?
Right. And I'm just going to tell people, by the way, that all of these things I'm describing to you are my experiences, and not everybody's going to have the same experience. Okay, so you just have to keep that. People have to keep that in mind. So when I bought the rig, I had two full river 6-volt batteries that were AGM batteries, sealed batteries under the hood. And I believe they were the original batteries. And they were about 5.5 years old. I had a battery failure on a trip. I couldn't get the full rivers. I wound up getting these off-brand batteries that only lasted 30 months. So I went back and I purchased 2 new full river batteries since then. That was 30 months ago, and they're still fine. In fact, I recommended full rivers to you as well, based on my previous experience. So, here's the thing, is that batteries are sold, by dealers, and they're not necessarily brand name batteries. They're not manufacturer's batteries. Full River is a battery manufacturer. So I try to buy a battery that's actually made by a real battery manufacturer, as opposed to just a no-name battery. And also sealed battery as well.
Now you're referring to your this is not the chassis. Full River is not your chassis battery. You said under the hood, but
right. These are the house batteries that are actually under the hood.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Now you reckon, okay, so it was also, I think about a year ago, I was sharing with you. See, you guys, you can tell Mark and I get on the phone and we text a lot back and forth because a lot of times I ask Mark for advice on what to do. So I shared with you about a year ago that my house battery, now I've only got one, it's a single house battery, it's 12 volts instead of 2 side by side. I was feeling that it just wasn't holding the charge as well as it should have. It wasn't really all that old, but it just wasn't holding the charge. And then I told you, Mark, that when Yoko and I would go camping and we wouldn't have plugins or anything, we wouldn't have hookups, I just felt like we had to be really super careful about like not turning lights on. And you said to me, look, that's crazy. When you're out RVing, when you're camping, you need to be using your stuff. You need to be using lights. You said, go get a full river.
Full river, right.
Which I did. I took your advice. I went to a dealership here that sells full rivers. I actually, it was cash and carry. I bought it. They ordered it for me. I bought it. I carried it away, installed it myself. And I know I think I was on the phone with you as I was installing it. And let me tell you something, Mark, I told you this before, but I'll share this with all the viewers. Best decision I've ever made. We feel extremely confident with the full river AGM house battery. It goes above and beyond what our other batteries used to do, for sure.
Right. And I'd like to just to tell your viewers that there's other batteries out there that are really good. Lifeline is an excellent battery as well. But I guess what I'm saying is that you can go to battery systems and you can buy whatever battery they have in their store, and it's just not the same. You just don't know who made that battery. And the quality of the battery really makes a difference. The lead plates that are in the battery, it makes a difference. The thickness of the plates, all that stuff is important.
And I just want to also make it clear to anybody watching this is we're recommending a lot of things. Sometimes we'll give a brand name, sometimes we won't, but neither of us are affiliated with any of these companies, and neither of us are making any money off of anything. We're just sharing. Yeah, we're sharing with you what we have, what's worked for us, but there's no kickback, there's no spiffs, there's nothing. We're just sharing what we have and what we like and what we don't like.
Exactly. The last thing I want is a premature failure on any product that I buy, which is why I buy the products that I've described to you.
Exactly. Now, talk to me a little bit about solar panel systems. I know you're super happy with yours, Mark.
Right. Actually, again, I'll throw a name out, but there's other companies out there. I just happen to have two ZAMP, Z-A-M-P solar panels. They come from a company in Colorado. You can also call them on the phone. They're very easy to talk to, and they'll give you a lot of good customer support. And they're on the roof of my van. They were professionally installed, and they have a 25-year guarantee. That's all I need to know, right? 25 years.
I'll tell you, if your rig is still going 25 years from now, you'll be over 100. No, you won't be over 100. You'll be old. That's a pretty good guarantee, Mark.
Right. Yeah. No, I won't make it another 25 years. But maybe
never say never. You're a pretty healthy guy. Don't say,
maybe the van will, but yeah. I can't guarantee. Now, the other thing about the solar panels, Dave, that I just want to add is that, and ZAMP actually encouraged me to do this, is that when you have the solar panels, they actually encourage you to get a battery monitoring system for your battery to make sure that solar panels and the battery monitoring system are really going well. And I happen to have a Victron Bluetooth battery monitoring system, which will give you the precise state of charge, which is really important, by the way, because you want to know at the end of the day, you'll have a full 100% because the sun is shining. But when the sun starts setting, there won't be any power in the solar panels, and your battery is going to go down gradually. And you want to know where that percentage is. And you want to try and keep those batteries no more than 50% low. In other words, you can go down from 100% maybe to 50%, but you don't want to go lower than that, really. It's not good for the batteries.
Right, but deep cycle battery, you can take way down, not to zero, but way down, as opposed to the battery that starts your chassis. Basically, if you get under 12 volts for that, you're pretty much in trouble. So these are made to be taken down lower.
They are deep cycle batteries. I'm glad you brought that up, because when I talked to the Full River people, they said that they would actually warranty their battery down to 30%. So you could take it down beyond 50%. Now, I don't do that because I just try to be mindful of the battery, and I don't really want to stress it out too much. But it's built that well. So
Good stuff. I've got a solar panel. It's not a fixed built-in on my
Okay.
roof, but I do have one, Mark, that I use it when I need to, like for boondocking. I bring it along, and it's a really nice one. It's in the other room. I can't remember the name. You probably know because I talked to you about it. You mentioned it, and you knew of this company. But basically, you just plug it right into you clamp it right onto the house battery, and it does its thing, and it charges really, really nicely. And I'm very confident that if we have this thing set up during the day, that we're going to have full power by the evening. And it works really nice, and it's simple. And again, I only carry it when I feel I need it. Like, in other words, if we're going to be somewhere where we got hookups, I generally just won't even bring it with me.
Well, that, space on a Class B is really very precious. We all know that, right? So the reason I had mine installed on the roof was so I wouldn't have to carry the panels separately. I really no place else to store them anyway, frankly. So that's why, it's possible that my rig has less storage space than yours. And so that's why I opted to put them on the roof.
Right. Okay. I mean, good point. Yeah. So that's once they're there. They're there. You don't have to worry. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about going out to the garage and bringing it. So
I don't have to do anything. Yeah, they're always there. Right.
Very good point, Mark. Let's talk about suspension issues, because this is something you and I have talked about a lot.
Right.
And I recently. Okay, so let me just tell everybody my story. I've told you a lot about this, Mark. But so I had one of those kind of common problems in an RV, in a Class B RV, which was it just didn't feel 100% stable. Like the shocks would bounce around a little bit more than I thought they should, and going up onto a from the road into a driveway, you hit that little lip, and sometimes you go back and forth a little bit. I knew I could do better. I wanted more stability. So I went into a shop that specializes in springs and shocks and airbags and things like that. And he said to me, look, he said, we put heavy duty springs on the back, just the back part. He said, it's going to be like night and day, which I did. And it was not all that expensive, Mark, and I'm extremely happy. Then you said to me, look, if you want to make it even better, try some new shocks, what did you recommend? They were Coney, right? Coney shocks?
Yeah, I think I may have recommended Coney FSD.
You did.
Yeah.
And I always take what you tell me very seriously. And so last year I got 4 Coney shocks all around, and that in combination with the new springs, it doesn't feel like I'm driving a Cadillac, but it feels probably as close as I can get. The only thing I might do in the future, when if I get up enough money for this, what I might do, and I've discussed this with you, Mark, I might consider an upgraded sway bar, or sway bar, or sway bars. I might consider that.
Right. I have a rear sway bar, a rear anti-sway bar that actually, the van came with an anti-sway bar, but I had it removed and they put on a larger anti-sway bar, which gave me a lot more stability side to side. And so I thought that was good. I didn't think that the front really required a sway bar, because the front end is got the rack and pinion steering, and it's got the McPherson strut suspension up there. The back only has leaf springs, like yours.
Okay. No, I mean, my back also has, of course, it has shocks. I mean, leaf springs and shocks, and plus I've got
right.
Plus, Mark, I've got the airbags too. Those inflatable airbags, which really do help a lot. I mean, I usually keep them inflated to somewhere around 40 to 50 psi, and they really help a lot, combined with all the other stuff I just mentioned. I think when it's windy, or when like an 18-wheeler comes zooming by us, I really don't feel it. I mean, of course, it feel a little bit, but nothing ever feels like it's going to send me off the road, or feel. I never feel like I'm unstable, that I'm going to be in trouble. So I think what I have is actually working pretty darn well, but I wouldn't have a problem upgrading my anti-sway bar as well.
In high winds, remember, you're like a sail. And so if you're driving down the highway and there's high crosswinds, at say 30 miles an hour, you can feel the van getting buffeted around, definitely. And my advice to people is, and this is what I always do, is slow down, because you'll have more control if you're slowing down, especially in a wind. And if it gets too much, I just pull over.
I am 100% with you. And let's talk about that for a second, because I think going slow, and so I'll tell you my idea of going slow. It's not, I don't drive 40 miles an hour along along the highway, but okay, I feel my comfortable zone along an interstate highway is anywhere between 60 to maybe 66, 67. I feel in that range, I'm like super, super comfortable. If you take it above that, like I could go 70 and still be okay, but why do it? I don't need to do it. So I just keep it 66 or below usually. But here's what I wanted to ask you, Mark. I see, and I'm sure you see it all the time, I see rigs coming by, whether they're class A's, class C's, the fifth wheels, and they must be going 80 miles an hour. And I swear, I don't see how they can do that and feel safe and feel comfortable and even enjoy. I just don't see, am I missing something here?
No, you're not missing anything, Dave. Actually, remember, the journey is part of the destination. So just slow down and enjoy it. And, I find big rig trucks going super fast all the time. I just let them pass. And, we're just slowing down and kind of like taking in some of the scenery. I'm like you, I'm driving about 60 to 65 miles an hour. Plus, you're going to get better mileage that way.
That's a good point. And these days, I'll take anything I can get as far as miles per gallon. But getting back to the safety, and I just, again, I'm glad you said that, because sometimes I start to feel like, am I the bad guy? Am I holding up traffic? Every RV passes me really fast, and I'm just thinking, why do they need to go so fast? And also, is it safe? They probably have families in there, kids, and why do they need to take these chances to get to a campground 15 to 20 minutes before anybody else? What's the big deal?
You're absolutely right. There's just no point in doing that. It's a safety issue. Absolutely.
So you also made mention about talking about gas mileage. You said something about poor gas mileage is oftentimes a symptom of something else going on. Let's talk about that for a second.
Well, okay. First of all, it depends on what kind of rig you're driving. Now, my diesel is going to get better mileage than most of the gas rigs out there because of the way it's designed. Diesel engines produce a lot of torque, and they're turbocharged, and they're just basically more efficient than gasoline engines. So I'm getting between 18 to 20 miles per gallon. But let me tell you, the biggest thing about gas mileage, Dave, is that wind has a tremendous effect. And if you're bucking a headwind or you're driving faster, you're going to find your gas mileage is going down, especially because you're trying to drive a vehicle that's a huge vehicle through a wind. It takes a lot more energy to do that than it does if you're going slower. So I would say to your viewers, drive between 60 and 65. Keep it on cruise control if you can. Keep an even keel on driving, and don't make a lot of sudden stops. Because that's going to really, sudden stops or jackrabbit starts. Those are the things that are going to eat your mileage really big time.
And not only eat your mileage, but wreak havoc on your systems, on your braking systems,
Absolutely.
on your
Absolutely.
your engine,
Yeah.
things like
If
that.
you're slamming on the brakes, you're going to be using the brakes up a lot faster.
And while we're talking, Mark, and while we're talking about that, let's talk about, and I know this is maybe a little bit off topic, but it's something I think should be discussed. How many hours do you drive in a day when you're out there trying to get across the country or get across the state or whatever? I know I'll say Yoko and I, generally, it would be very rare for us to be driving more than 5 hours a day. That's Google. That's like Google Map mileage. In other words, if you say getting to point A, point B, 5 hours. I'm not counting stops and things like that, but 5 hours on the road. We usually try to strive for like between 3 and 4, only because it's just, something you said something a few minutes ago about it, have fun, enjoy it. And if I'm trying to get from point A to point B and I'm rushed and I got to press hard because I got to get the miles in to get to you take the fun all out of it. So I'd rather go slower, go less miles, less hours. And guess what? When you get to the campsite or wherever you're going, sit back, open up a beer. If you drink beer, open up whatever it might be, and kick back and have fun. That's what this is all about. It's not about racing to the next destination.
You know, I don't ever make any reservations, Dave. Whether I'm driving the car or I'm driving the van, I never make advance reservations anywhere. I mean, people are always astonished when I tell them that. And it really depends on when you start your day, how comfortable you feel driving into the evening hours. There are some times that we drive, say, 6 hours in the van. Sometimes we've driven 4 hours. Sometimes we've driven 7 hours. So it really depends on where you are, what the situation is. But I never drive when it's not safe. Another thing about driving in the vehicles is that if the sun is in your eyes, the sun is setting and it's in your eyes, you need to be very careful. Sometimes we'll pull over and just stop for like an hour, wait for the sun to set so that we can actually watch, we can see the road more clearly, because if the sun is blinding you, that's a really big problem.
It's a huge problem. And not only that, to add a little bit to that, rain. I'm talking about heavy rain, torrential rain, heavy rain. I will stop because, again, it's not fun driving in the rain. It's not safe with a vehicle that weighs as heavy as our, Class Bs. And God forbid you have like a Class A or you have a fifth wheel. Those things are tremendous. I mean, sure. It's not safe. And I would rather pull over and miss a day of driving. If they're calling for heavy rain all day long, guess who's going to pull over to a campground or maybe even stay in a hotel room until it clears up? Because again, I want to be safe and I want to enjoy myself. I don't want to be white knuckled driving along in the rain, knowing that I step on the brake the wrong way or I hit a puddle and I could hydroplane 5 lanes over. I don't want to be doing that. I'm sorry.
Right. And as a matter of fact, like I said, when we're driving in the van or even the car, like we're in the car, we'll just use Priceline to find a hotel somewhere along the way. And if it's in the van, we could actually stay. You can stay at a Cracker Barrel if you have to. Cracker Barrel restaurants, you could park there. You could stop at Walmart. These are not optimum places to stop, but they're places. And especially in small towns, it's easy to do that. But we never make advance reservations unless it's absolutely necessary. We're going to a locale that we need reservations.
Right. And that's the beauty of a Class B, because let's face it, a Class B, you can hide that. You can pull a Class B up into a Hilton hotel parking lot, park it there and sleep. I'm not telling you to do this because it's probably not legal, but you could, because it blends in. A Class B, but think of a Class A, no way you could do that. A Class C, well, that screams it's an RV. A trailer, a fifth wheel, you just can't do that. But with a Class B, you can blend in to so many different areas. It's so easy to do. It's just so it's a good point, Mark. Worst comes to worst, you could pull over almost anywhere and get a good night's sleep.
You can. It's a lot more spontaneous in a Class B.
Absolutely, no question about it.
Yeah.
You've got something on the outline here about, I think we've covered a lot of this already, but enjoy your RV. It's designed to give you years of pleasure. It's not an investment. It's not a bond that's going to mature after a certain amount of time.
No, it won't. With all due respect to everybody that has any kind of RV, it is probably one of the worst financial investments. It really is. But it's a really great emotional investment, okay? Because you're having fun and you're living your life and you're doing things that you want to do. I don't think people buy RVs to make money. Anybody that buys an RV and thinks they're going to flip it like a house, they're crazy. This is not happening. So that's just it. I don't know. Some people, they would say they would sell everything and get a $500,000 motorhome. That would be the worst possible situation.
I certainly would not like that. I'll tell you. Again, you know, I, I've said this on so many of my videos. I love our Class B, and it's only me and my wife. If a family of five, no, you can't. A Class B is
No,
not going to
right.
work.
No, no,
But
no.
you've got to say it's only you and your wife. It's me and
It's
my
just
wife and
two
ours.
people. It's just two people, Dave. Two
Yeah,
people.
exactly. And two people and like and a pet, I think would still be ideal as long as it's not a 100-pound dog or anything. But and admittedly, sometimes look, we're in the RV, we're in our Class B, and Yoko and I have to dance around each other a little bit to get into another look. But I'm willing to live with that because it's so pleasurable to drive, to park, to get around. You look, if we had to, you could use it as a everyday vehicle. I don't do that, and you don't do that either. But if you had to, you could. If you're at a campground, you could use it to get around town if you need to do that. So whoever, if you're listening to this or watching this and you don't have a Class B, good for it's fine. You hopefully whatever you have is working for you, and they're all different, and everybody has different needs. But for a couple, it's just they work so well. I wouldn't have it any other way. They work so well, Mark.
The other thing is that I live in Southern California in earthquake territory. And if something were to happen, we've had earthquakes here before when things have just been kind of a mess. And you could actually go to the Class B and, that would be a place that you could live in for a short time. I wouldn't want to live in it, but you could for a short time.
Yeah, you could use it as your house, as emergency vehicle, hotel room, temporary hotel room.
Correct. That's
And the good thing about Class Bs, and many RVs are like this though, but especially Class Bs, we can make almost anything our backyard for a night, for a week, for a month, or for a year. You went to the Grand Canyon recently. You had the Grand Canyon as your backyard,
Sure.
and easy to get around in your Class B, and we can do the same thing. So I'm not trying to sell anybody on a Class B. We both have them. We love them. But if you got a C and it's working out great for you, if you got a trailer or a fifth wheel or whatever you might have, so a lot of people these days have these campers on pickup trucks, and I see people that are super happy with those, and that's great. Mark, before we leave, is there anything that we didn't touch on that you would like to bring up?
The only thing I'd like to bring up is a lot of people get so focused on how many miles are on your vehicle. And it's not about the miles, it's about the maintenance, it's about the upkeep, it's about all the functioning equipment, and it's about the condition of the vehicle. It's not about the mile, about how many miles are on your odometer. So I think people should try and cool out, relax a little bit. And I get so focused on, oh, I can't go over 100,000 miles or whatever their number is. That's just crazy.
Yeah, like you said, you've bought it. It's not an investment. It's something to have
Right.
fun with, and why not drive the thing? Like I think you made a note here. It's not a driveway ornament. You don't want to buy.
It's not a maturing bond. If you find that you're not using your rig and it's sitting on the driveway for, say, 8 months out of the year, and you only take it out, if you only take it out just a couple of times or 3 times a year, you'd be better off renting one, because this is a very expensive vehicle to be sitting around. It's going to deteriorate. It's going to fall apart, even if you don't use it, Dave.
Oh yeah. If it's just sitting there, it absolutely will deteriorate.
Yeah.
Things just start going wrong. Remember,
you've got to use it, and that's another, back to the generator situation, which these generators have to be exercised, and they've got to be serviced. And if you don't run them, Cummins says run the generator 2 hours a month. They're not kidding. It's actually published in their owner's manual. A lot of people don't read the owner's manual, unfortunately, but that's just the way it is.
Well, Mark, let's do this. Since we kind of made a segue into speaking about something like the generator is probably more part of the RV itself. If you don't mind, when it's convenient for both of us, why don't we come back and do another episode like this, but we'll concentrate on everything like inside the RV and see if we can help people out that way.
Sure, absolutely. Be happy to.
That'd be great. But so listen, thank you for your time.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
for your knowledge, your expertise. You're a guy that I'm glad.
I'm not an expert. I just want to say to people, I am not an expert. I'm just sharing. This is having an RV is a really long learning curve. It's a very steep learning curve. And I'm still learning more stuff about the RV as time goes on. I'm not an expert. I consult with people. I'll call up RV shops and I'll talk to people and get their input about what if I have a problem, what to do and how to solve it. But I'm by all means not an expert, not at all.
Well, I oftentimes say the minute we get to the point where we think we know it all, that's when the trouble starts. So that's why
I agree. I totally agree with you.
I mean, for years I've been calling myself the RV dummy, and it's become kind of tongue in cheek because I'm not really a dummy. I mean, I know a decent amount, but I still don't claim to know everything there is to know about RVing, and probably never will. Now, do I know a lot more now than I did when I first got my first rig, probably, which was like 5 years ago? I know a lot more. I'm proud of myself. I can go into a dump station now and from start to finish, have everything dumped in within way less than 5 minutes. Whereas I don't understand some people that somebody's in front of me and they're dumping and it's taking them 40 minutes. My blood boils. I don't know why people take so long. Now, 5 minutes might be 5 minutes or less might be super quick, but I can do it. I do it. I just did it the other day. It was probably 3 or 4 minutes because I know exactly what I'm doing. But when I first got mine, I didn't know what I was doing. And it was disaster. But as you do more, Mark, you learn more, you get better at what you do. That's all.
Everything's easy when you know what to do.
Exactly. Let's leave it at that, Mark. I thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate. I really appreciate you.
Sure.
And let's continue the conversation. We'll do another video. We'll do like all things interior and also exterior. Interior, but as far as the living space, the RV part, and not really the chassis part. I think we do a great show on that as well.
Okay, we'll be happy to. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks very much.
Okay, Kate. Thank you.